Hey guys, post-credit SPC here. Just wanted to let you guys know that I did record this on the actual release date. So I did record this on June 10th. If you guys have been following me here on the channel, you guys will know that I've been having some technical issues with my stuff. So just wanted to let you guys know that I'll be saying tonight and stuff like that throughout the review. So just wanted to let you guys know I did actually record this on release date. So just so you guys aren't confused. So enjoy the spoiler-free review. Yeah. Yeah, no, they said everything here was fine. There's nothing apparently to worry about. There aren't as many big, dangerous dinosaurs as back in Jurassic World. I mean, heck, how can you get any worse than having a volcano erupt while you're actually there visiting? Right? Right? Yeah, I gotta call you back. Really? Hey, what is going on, my specialist SPC here, and welcome back to my Jurassic Park review series. So guys, after the previous 5 films, we are now finally here in what is supposedly the final installment of the Jurassic Park franchise, that being Jurassic World Dominion. Now, obviously going through this review series, I've told you guys exactly how excited I've been for this film, so obviously my expectations have been very high. Ultimately, guys, I gotta tell you, this was a very fun installment of the franchise. All I can tell you is it is nowhere near where the original Jurassic Park is all I can really tell you right now. Also remember too, guys, if you did not read the title, this is going to be a spoiler-free discussion. I'm not going to ruin anything for this film for you guys. I want you guys to go and check this out with your own eyes. So without further ado, let's get into what I liked about Jurassic World Dominion. And really, I gotta say, the first positive I have to give to this film is really just how large and epic of a scale this film was compared to the previous films. You know, obviously, you get into Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and, the entire island blowing up is a huge, epic start to a film. This film just tries to go for big, and it pays off pretty well for the most part. There's a lot of exciting moments throughout this film. There's great character interactions. There's gigantic dinosaurs everywhere. Everywhere you go in the world, there are dinosaurs all over the place. And it really does take on the name of Jurassic World when you get to see dinosaurs in all these different parts of the country. Next big positive I have to give, honestly, this is the best acting out of pretty much the entire Jurassic World series, that, in my personal opinion. You got Chris Pratt as Owen Grady once again. You've got Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire. And I don't know who the actress is, but the girl who plays Maisie in this film. All 3 of them were great. All their interactions together felt, for the most part, pretty organic. They actually felt like a little family. They actually feel like they really have been living together for the last 4 years since the events of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Honestly, too, I've been a little critical about this throughout this series, but the CGI is literally at its peak in this film. All these dinosaurs look extremely real. Once again, super detailed. The best in the entire franchise, I am personally going to say. It's nothing like... Obviously, it's nothing like when you see a practical effects dinosaur, which, surprisingly, they do quite a bit of in this film. That's actually something they do pretty well in here, too. They actually sprinkle out in a decent amount of animatronic dinosaurs. You get a lot more of that feel like of the original Jurassic Park. Even, honestly, Jurassic Park 3, which, again, you guys know my thoughts on it. If you don't, well, obviously go check that out. Honestly, you guys, that is it for my actual positives. Surprisingly, I'm going to have to save my biggest area for last because my mixed section is honestly where a large portion of my positives and problems both are together. So I just kind of want to get into the things I didn't like about this film. And really just the biggest thing that holds this film down, are our new villains, our new mustache twirlers, as I like to call them. To me, they're just InGen reinvented again with a new name. And to me, the guy who actually is the villain, he's actually the dad from the Amazing Spider-Man films. I didn't like him in those. I did not like him in here. To me, he just didn't fit. This portion of the story was easily the weakest of the entire film. And my only other negative I would have to say, honestly, is this film heavily puts the dinosaurs back on the back burner in this film. It's honestly kind of sad because, you would think your final film in this entire franchise, you want to go big, you want the world to see all these dinosaurs. And while you do get some very good action sequences with certain dinosaurs, you get some tense sequences with other dinosaurs, you don't get to see a lot of them. You don't really get to feel that same magic that you had watching the original Jurassic Park, even Jurassic World. To me, the farther along you go in these trilogies, unfortunately, the weaker they are becoming. And I gotta be honest, if it comes down to an overall story, it's not the weakest in the franchise, but it's definitely one of them. And now we are here at my biggest portion, which honestly has never happened in any of my reviews I've ever done, but let's get into what I am mixed on with Jurassic World Dominion. I'm going to start with my more smaller ones, and I'll eventually get to what my biggest mixed feeling is of this film. My first more smaller mixed is just based on one character, and again, I've only seen the film once. I let it sit overnight just so I could think about it a little more. But our newest character here, again, I don't know her name, as I've been doing. I'll post her name and her character name. But she was really interesting. I really thought the character kind of did blend very well with Claire and Owen. But really, she's just kind of thrown in here. We don't get a lot of backstory about her. We don't get any sort of a character arc really with this character. She is pretty badass when it comes to certain sequences, especially when her and Owen, you guys have seen in the trailer, they're about to go up against that feathered looking raptor. That sequence was pretty tense. She did pretty well in there. But ultimately, I just don't really see what her use was in this. My next mixed element is overall the character of Maisie in here. Obviously the previous film, she obviously, of course, is 4 years younger, so you kind of feel a little bit more emotionally attached to her because she's a younger child. 4 years later, she's a teenager. She's just like all teenagers you see in films nowadays. They're angsty, they're rebellious. Obviously, that's how teenagers are nowadays. And she basically gets herself into trouble because of the actions that she decides to take. It's hard to feel sorry for Owen and Claire while they're, becoming very emotional about Maisie not being around anymore. Speaking of parents, obviously throughout the entire course of all these trailers, all the marketing, all the toys, everything like that, showed Blue and her young baby, Beta. Again, as awesome as it is to see Blue, she's been around since the first film. She's easily the face of this franchise, in the second half, I should say, along with Chris Pratt as well. But you don't get to see her very often. You only see her, honestly, if I could guess, you see her for maybe 5 whole minutes of this entire film. And this is an almost 2.5 hour long film. Same thing, too, with the baby Beta. You think you're going to see this play out throughout the entire film, but you only get little snippets here and there that kind of coexist, co-lines with the Maisie storyline. So, again, cool to see a baby raptor and cool to see Blue again, but you not being able to see them, it's like I said in my negatives, with the dinosaurs being on the back burner, not getting to see a whole lot of them. It kind of soured my overall feeling with this. Really, you guys, too, it's a problem in most of these films, and it's the multiple different storylines they're trying to do. When I start getting invested in one, the other one starts to happen, and it's less interesting, and then you get to another less interesting. Because for me, the more interesting parts of this story, and the whole interesting parts of this film, were with Alan and Ellie. With them two doing their thing, with them two being together, that was more interesting because it's basically the first time, if you want to count Jurassic Park 3, but the first time they've actually been together since the events of the first Jurassic Park film. And now, unfortunately, to my biggest mixed feeling on this entire film, is the use of the legacy characters. Of course, Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Ellie Sattler, Ian Malcolm. To me, it's great seeing these characters back together. Again, you haven't seen them together since the first film. This franchise actually got to do what the Star Wars sequel trilogies didn't get to do with bringing back Han, Leia, and Luke as a trio. This film, you get all three of them back together. It feels, again, organic when it comes to their interactions, how they've still been friends, even though it's a little odd between Ian and Alan, but that's besides the point. It's always been that kind of weird with those two. But really, in all honesty, I want to start off with Ian. Again, cool to see Jeff Goldblum back in the role of Ian Malcolm. He's been in a vast majority of these films. He does say things that, keeps your attention. And honestly, the best way I can kind of describe it is he talks almost like Dr. Loomis does from the Halloween franchise when he's describing Michael Myers, You listen to what he's saying, you actually can gather what he's saying for the most part. But really, he's almost only there just to crack some jokes and to make people laugh. While the lines he says are funny, to me, this isn't Ian Malcolm. To me, this is just a watered-down, burnt-out version of this character. And once again, I don't really even see why he was here. He didn't play a significant role. There is a portion of the Alan and Ellie storyline that he's a part of that he does play a pretty big role with, but as an overall character in this film, doesn't really serve much of a purpose to me. And unfortunately, the same thing goes with Ellie and Alan, unfortunately, because, again, great to see them together. When they're on screen together, it does literally feel like you're back with the original Jurassic Park film. But really, again, there's really no purpose for these characters to be in here. They don't serve a large purpose, unfortunately. Especially with Alan. And if you guys have been watching my review series, for me, Alan Grant is my overall favorite character in this entire franchise. There are only snippets of this film where he actually feels like Alan Grant. At the beginning of the film, the very first sequence you see with Sam Neill playing this character again, the way he speaks, it doesn't even sound like Alan Grant. It honestly sounds like Sam Neill is just struggling to hide his accent. And it really just took me out of the moment. Again, it was a great sequence to see because it felt like Jurassic Park, but listening to him speak, it didn't really invest me into his character in this one. And guys, I'll be honest, that's really all I can tell you guys without spoiling the film, because again, I don't want to spoil this. I want you guys to go and see with your own eyes. If I can give you guys some advice for going into this, I would go in with moderate expectations, because even though I went up with high expectations, I wasn't entirely disappointed. I still had fun. I still enjoyed the film overall. So that is why, and again, if you guys have followed me on Letterboxd, I gave it a different rating, but after really sitting on it and just really letting things, soak in, I have come to the conclusion that I am going to give Jurassic World Dominion a 3 out of 5. And guys, that is going to do it for my official review for Jurassic World Dominion. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys go down below in the comments section. Let me know what your guys' style was. Please keep it spoiler-free for people who have not watched the film. And also stay tuned for my ranking of the entire Jurassic Park franchise. You guys can see where I place everything. So, and with that being said, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one.